The first time the little girls called him Sir, Daniel Harper almost kept walking. It was late October in Portland, the kind of evening where the sky turned bruised. Purple too early, and the air carried the sharp scent of rain. Daniel had just locked up the auto repair shop where he worked 12-hour shifts, grease still under his fingernails, shoulders aching in that deep, familiar way that had become his constant companion since his wife died. He didn't have the energy for small talk. He barely had the energy to breathe. "Hello, sir?" The voice was soft, polite, almost rehearsed. Daniel turned. 3 girls stood at the edge of the sidewalk outside the bus stop bench. They couldn't have been older than 8, identical in a way that made his heart stutter. Same dark braids, tied with mismatched ribbons, same wide brown eyes, same nervous habit of clutching each other's sleeves. Triplets. For a split second the world tilted. He knew that feeling. He'd lived it. Watched 3 tiny heartbeats flicker on an ultrasound screen years ago. Held 3 impossibly small hands in a hospital room that smelled like antiseptic and hope. But that life had ended in a single violent afternoon on Highway 26. Daniel blinked hard and steadied himself. "Hey there," he said gently. "Are you girls lost?" The one in the middle stepped forward. She swallowed before speaking, as if summoning courage. "Sir, our mother has a tattoo just like yours." Daniel frowned. "Like mine?" She pointed. He looked down at his left forearm. The ink was faded but unmistakable. 3 tiny sparrows in flight, wings stretched forward, rising together. He'd gotten it on a reckless, joyful day years ago with his wife, Lily. They had been 26, laughing in a small shop near Pike Place Market in Seattle, promising that no matter what, their family would always rise together. 3 sparrows for the 3 daughters they'd dreamed of. Daughters who never took their first breath. The accident had come at 7 months pregnant. A drunk driver. A rain-slick highway. Daniel had survived. Lily and the babies had not. He hadn't spoken their names in years. He stared at the girls again. That's a pretty common tattoo," he managed, though he knew it wasn't. The girl on the left shook her head earnestly. "No, sir, it's 3 birds. And one is a little higher, like it's leading." Daniel's pulse thudded in his ears. That detail wasn't random. The artist had done that at Lily's request. "One's the brave one," she'd said. "She'll lead her sisters." He crouched slowly, so he was eye level with them. "What's your mother's name?" "Maria," they answered together. Relief washed over him so abruptly his knees weakened. Not Lily, not some miracle, not some impossible resurrection. Just coincidence, except it didn't feel like coincidence. "Where is your mom?" he asked. The middle girl's lip trembled. "She's at home. She's sick. We needed to ask someone for help." Daniel's chest tightened. "Help with what?" The smallest one, though they were nearly identical, spoke up. "The landlord says we have to leave tonight." The words hit him like cold water. He stood slowly, scanning the street. The bus stop was nearly empty. Cars rushed past, headlights streaking through mist. "Where do you live?" They pointed down the block toward an aging apartment, complex with chipped paint and flickering hallway lights. Daniel hesitated. He'd learned the hard way that the world wasn't always kind. A single man approaching 3 little girls. The optics alone could ruin him. But he could see fear in their eyes. Real fear. The kind children couldn't fake. "Okay," he said carefully. "Let's walk back together. I just want to talk to your mum." "All right." They nodded. As they walked, Daniel noticed how thin their jackets were, how their shoes were a size too small, how they kept glancing at him like they were holding their breath. Inside the apartment building, the hallway smelled of mildew and old cooking oil. The girls led him to Unit 3B. The door was cracked open. "Mom?" one called softly. "We brought someone." Daniel knocked lightly and pushed the door wider. The apartment was small, sparsely furnished. A couch with a worn blanket. A folding table with unpaid bills stacked neatly. And on the far wall, a framed photo of a younger woman holding 3 newborn babies. Maria was sitting on the couch, wrapped in a sweater, her skin pale and drawn. She looked up sharply when Daniel entered, instinctively protective. "I'm sorry," he began quickly, hands raised slightly. "They said you might need help. Her eyes fell to his forearm. She froze. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Then she slowly pushed back her sleeve. 3 sparrows, one slightly higher than the others. His breath left his body in a rush. "That's not possible," he whispered. Maria's eyes filled with tears. "I didn't think I'd ever see that again." The room felt too small, the air too thin. "I got this in Seattle," Daniel said hoarsely. 8 years ago, with my wife." Maria nodded slowly. "I know." The girls looked between them, confused. Maria took a shaky breath. 8 years ago, I was working at a cafe near Pike Place. There was a couple who came in almost every day. They were so happy, so excited. She was pregnant with triplets. Daniel's heart slammed against his ribs. Maria continued, voice trembling. "They showed me the sketch for this tattoo. 3 sparrows. She said it meant their girls would always rise together." The memory came rushing back. Lily laughing at the cafe counter, holding up the drawing to show the barista who'd complimented it. "You," Daniel whispered. Maria nodded. After the accident," she said softly, "I saw it on the news. I didn't know you personally, but I couldn't stop thinking about her. About those babies. Something about your joy stuck with me." Tears slipped down her cheeks. "A year later I found out I was pregnant. With triplets." Daniel swayed slightly, grabbing the back of a chair for balance. "I was terrified," she said. "I almost didn't keep them. I was alone. No support. But I remembered her smile. I remembered how fiercely she loved girls she hadn't even met yet. She looked at her daughters. So I got the tattoo, as a promise, that I'd fight for mine." Silence settled heavy between them. The girls stared wide-eyed. Daniel felt like the ground beneath him had cracked open, revealing something luminous and unbearable. "You named them?" he asked. Maria hesitated. "Hope, Grace, and Lily." The name hit him like a breaking wave. He covered his face briefly, emotion ripping through him. 8 years of numb survival, of working and sleeping and existing without color. And suddenly, here was something alive. Something that connected past to present in a way he couldn't explain. "I never thought I'd meet you," Maria said. "I never even knew your name." "Daniel," he managed. "Daniel," she repeated softly. A loud knock at the door shattered the fragile moment. Maria flinched. "That's him," she whispered. Daniel's jaw tightened. He opened the door to find a heavy-set man in a cheap suit holding paperwork. "You're past due," the landlord snapped. "I gave you notice." "They need more time," Daniel said evenly. The landlord looked him up and down. "You family?" Daniel hesitated for a fraction of a second. Then he said firmly, "Yes." The word surprised even him. The landlord scoffed. "Unless you've got first and last month's rent, they're out tonight." Daniel thought of the overtime he'd picked up, the small savings account he'd guarded like oxygen, the motorcycle he'd been slowly restoring in his garage, his last indulgence, the last piece of his old self. He didn't even pause. "I'll transfer it," he said. Maria's eyes widened. "Daniel, you don't have to." "I know," he said gently, "but I want to." Kindness wasn't weakness. Lily had taught him that. Love wasn't something you rationed out of fear. It was something you gave because it mattered. Within an hour, the landlord left with confirmation of payment. The girls were hugging Daniel's legs as if he might disappear. Maria sat down heavily, overwhelmed. "Why would you do this?" He looked at the tattoo again, at the sparrows that had once represented grief, too sharp to touch. "Because," he said quietly, "your girls are here. Mine aren't, but somehow they still mattered. They mattered enough to give you courage." He swallowed. "And that means something." Over the next few weeks, Daniel didn't just pay rent. He fixed broken cabinet hinges, repaired a leaky sink, brought groceries, found a doctor willing to treat Maria's untreated pneumonia at a reduced cost through a local community clinic. He never overstepped, never assumed. He simply showed up. The girls started calling him Mr. Daniel. Then one day Hope slipped and called him Dad. She clapped her hands over her mouth in horror. Daniel felt his heart shatter and mend in the same breath. "It's okay," he whispered. Months passed. Maria regained her strength. She found part-time work again. Daniel taught the girls how to change a tire, how to ride bikes in the park, how to spot Orion's belt in the winter sky. On the first anniversary of the day they met, Maria invited him over for dinner. The apartment looked different, warmer, fuller. There was a new photo on the wall. It showed 4 figures at the park, 3 girls mid-laughter, and Daniel kneeling beside them, smiling in a way he hadn't in years. Maria handed him a small wrapped box. Inside was a framed copy of Lily's original sparrow sketch. "I found it online," she said. "Your wife had posted it once, years ago." Daniel traced the paper with trembling fingers. "I don't believe in accidents anymore," Maria said softly. "I believe in ripples." Your love for your family rippled into mine. The girls rushed forward, wrapping their arms around him. "Thank you for freezing that day," Grace whispered. Daniel laughed through tears. If he hadn't turned around when they said, "Hello, sir," he would have missed it. The proof that love doesn't end in twisted metal on a highway. It multiplies, it echoes, it finds its way back in the most unexpected voices on an October evening, in 3 little girls brave enough to speak to a stranger, and in a single dad who finally understood that sometimes, when the past calls out to you on a sidewalk, you're supposed to stop.